we've got Scottie Scheffler who's dominating the sport. Everyone's heard about it, talked about it, after his presser earlier in the week where he kind of downplayed the success, downplayed the pinnacle moments. And he talked a little bit about that after he won. But when you have a player like that who doesn't want to lean into it, and Jordan Spieth even talked about this a little bit, that he's not trying to, change the game like Tiger did. Like, he's just coming there to win, and he's going home with his family. Like, that's all he cares about. I think from that perspective, it makes it tough for TV to really, gravitate towards a guy who's not trying to lean into everything they're trying to do to continue to build the game. And I'm not saying that Scottie Scheffler's not building the game. I think he's doing it in his own way. But to, I guess, his contemporaries, like, those guys don't feel like he is.
I mean, look, Tiger Woods was his own world, like his own universe. And that's why you could argue who's the greatest golfer of all time. If you were around watching golf or watching sports when Tiger was in his prime, that's Jordan. Like, we're talking, that's rarefied air that we will not see. And yeah, Scottie Scheffler's, doesn't have all that and probably doesn't even want that. But what's wrong with that? Like, I don't think it diminishes what he's done for the sport. He just doesn't have the interest or maybe the thought that, I want to go out and I want to build and promote and be this revolutionary being at this level, representing the sport on a global grand scale. And Scottie Scheffler even talked, because people took that quote that you mentioned where he just kind of said, hey, listen, it's cool, but these moments are fleeting. And it wasn't as overwhelmed by everything, and it didn't run his world and run his life the way that he a lot of athletes maybe let them get to at that point. And we talked about this where Kevin Durant, Aaron Rodgers said the same thing. They finally won a championship and they were like, is that it? Like, is that it? And so Scheffler afterwards yesterday was again asked about those comments, and of course had to clarify his statements.
I think we live now in a day and age of where, clickbait is kind of what people look for, and you can shorten a 5-minute clip into, 3 words. I think really underestimates what I was trying to communicate. Maybe I didn't do as effective of a job of what I would have hoped to in communicating that, but, at the end of the day, I have a tremendous amount of gratitude towards moments like these. I've literally worked my entire life to become somewhat good at this game, to be able to play this game for a living, and it's one of the great joys of my life being able to compete out here. And to be able to win the Open Championship here at Portrush is a feeling that's really hard to describe. If somebody's going to listen to the comments I had this week, I would encourage them to listen to all of it. And hopefully I did a good job of communicating that, this is amazing to win the Open Championship. But at the end of the day, having success in life, whether it be in golf or work or whatever it is, that's not what fulfills the deepest desires of your heart. Am I grateful for it? Do I enjoy it? Oh my gosh, yeah, this is a cool feeling. I can't wait to get home and celebrate this championship, with the people that have kind of helped me along the way. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fulfill the deepest desires of my heart. And but it's just tough to describe when you haven't lived it. Something I actually talked to Shane about this week was, just because you win a golf tournament or accomplish something, it doesn't make you happy. It doesn't. Maybe for a few moments, maybe for a few days, but at the end of the day, there's more to life than playing golf. But I'm pretty excited to go home and celebrate this one.
Works for me. It's just he's not wrapped up in it. He's got a life. Sorry.
Can I make it a comparison of Scottie Scheffler to someone else in the radio world?
Who's that?
I would say Scottie Scheffler's perspective most closely aligns with you. If you actually look at just how you go about and associate yourself with radio and kind of that disconnect where, you've got a family, you also have a son, one in which that, from time to time in the big moments, we get to see you and your son, but that's really it. And then you guys go off and you go home, or you go off and you do your own thing. Very similar to Scottie Scheffler. You guys like to keep the radio world in which you dominate in its own space. Meanwhile, the whole family life and everything else is a completely different compartmentalized part of your life. So I would say the closest thing in the radio world to Scottie Scheffler is one Jonas Knox.
Hey, I'll take it. And that is 100% spot on and correct. Maybe that's why I can, what he says resonates with me, because I don't, There are two different things. The second you get home, and I've heard athletes talk about this to where if you win a game or you lose a game or you win a fight or lose a fight or whatever it is that you do in competition, when you get home to your family, they don't care about any of that. None of that matters. When I get home to my son, he doesn't care what my best take of the day was. What he wants to know is, hey, when are we going to play baseball? Hey, can I get this monster truck? Like, he doesn't care about any of that stuff. So maybe there is a little something to that. Although what Scottie Scheffler is doing at his level, from a radio standpoint, I'm nowhere close. And I do wonder, what is the gap between him and the next best player? Because we've talked about that in the NFL where, hey, if Aaron Donald is the best interior defensive lineman, what's the gap between him and the next best? And as of right now, who's even close to Scottie Scheffler?
It's tough to figure out who exactly that person would be. Because you think back to Tiger, and I always wonder, hey, what would Phil Mickelson's career had been like had Tiger not been around? You know, we're probably talking about it a little bit different. You know, maybe he still lives for the Live Tour, leaves for the Live Tour. Maybe he doesn't. But there's a lot of those guys that you say, man, I wonder what, you know, their career would have been had they not, you know, had that Tiger Woods that was in the way, a guy who was an anomaly and just that much better than everyone else. I'm not sure if you throw in like Alexander Schauffele. I'm not sure who you would throw in there because he's been so dominant. Now I do want to go back to Rory, and I've got a conspiracy theory on this.
All right.
So I don't know if we've got any music or if it's possible to maybe bring back some Robert Stack from Unsolved Mysteries.
He's here. Straight off the course at Royal Troon.
I mean, we heard the clip from a few moments ago where it felt over the top from NBC. And for anyone who watched, in particular on Saturday, because Rory shot one of his better rounds, I believe it was Saturday at least, and it wasn't even the best round of the day, but everyone was acting like it was. I think Russell Henley actually shot the lowest round. But they're hyping him up. Oh, Rory, he's going to make a run. Oh, my God. I mean, this whole thing, it was just so over the top. And I was thinking to myself, wasn't it earlier in the week we saw another note about Rory McIlroy turning down $850 million to go to Live Tour? Was that earlier this past week or maybe 2 weeks ago?
I think so. And it was $850 million?
$850 million.
Jesus.
And it feels like every single time that there's an issue for Rory, right? We had the whole debacle of the non-conforming driver, which came out. Scottie Scheffler acknowledged it and said, hey, they took my driver too. In fact, if we're going to do this, why don't we do it to everyone? You know, why are we only doing this for a third of the players that are in the tournament? Why doesn't everyone have their clubs, looked at or drivers looked at? And Roy was upset because it happened to get out and it made him look kind of bad, right? Because he had won it. He finally got the last major he was looking for. And now people are saying, all right, well, was it because he was using a non-conforming driver? Well, then we didn't see him for a couple weeks. So you had that whole issue. Then we stopped seeing him more and more talking to the media and saying, hey, we're not obligated to. I was doing this on my own account. But he didn't like how that got out about the non-conforming driver. He didn't feel like people had his back. After years of defending the PGA Tour, after years of not going to the Live Tour. And this was, in my opinion, really the next big tournament moment they've kind of had since all that fallout. And it's not surprising to me that you hear about him going, oh, he turned it down. He's been turning down Live Tour offers forever. So either he's putting it out there because he wants to keep reminding people, hey, I've been one of the guys who stayed loyal. I've been one of the guys who's been like upholding the PGA Tour while the Live Tours try to come in and pillage us. And I think a lot of the broadcast and media partners have been asked to talk as favorably as possible about him. It was a natural storyline for the British Open, given that was in Northern Ireland at Royal Portrush. But I do think that there is a concentrated effort by all parties involved in the PGA Tour of trying to make Rory happy because of how everything has gone over the past couple of years. And even though he's had his moments, he hasn't been quite as successful as I think he probably would like to be, his team would like him to be, and maybe a lot of people out there thought he would be.
I buy it. By the way, apologies. I called it Royal Troon on accident. My apologies. Didn't mean to confuse that with Port Rush. But yeah, it makes sense because he has really been the most vocal about supporting the PGA Tour as opposed to Live Golf. Like if you think about it, more so than Tiger, more so than anybody. And so there may be their make good to him in response to this with these reports continuing to come out about the Live Tour. Could be that. I buy it. That makes sense. He did disappear for a little bit, and he didn't seem all that pleased about, the testing of the clubs and all that went on. And Scottie Scheffler was just like, hey, I mean, is what it is. But that was a fantastic performance for Scottie Scheffler. And do you think he's like Joker, where he lets his horses play with his trophies when they get home and just kind of says, I don't need this. This is just a toy at this point.
I don't know. I hope he's really boring. Like, I actually love the fact that he just seems like a really good, normal guy. He wins it. He looks immediately for his wife and son. He's standing with them, hugging with them. His dad comes up and he's like, I have no words. I mean, he's on such a run right now the past couple of years that I imagine now as a father watching a child do something like this, the pinnacle of that sport. And he's talked about how hard he's worked to get here and at being here, especially with the early struggles and some of the changes that he made. But you look at it and you just go, yeah, I'm speechless too. I mean, even after you won, the broadcasters were speechless. They said it. They're like, what do you say? I mean, what do you say at this point when it feels like it's inevitable? Every single time he steps up on a big stage, if he's not winning it, he's right there in the mix. And you better hope he doesn't have that lead going into Sunday.